Greetings, YouTube, and welcome to Bitching About Star Trek. I should make this an entire series. It could last forever. I watched the entirety of Enterprise, and it's very uneven, but I love the ship. The ship is awesome. It looks like a ship. It doesn't look like a convention center flying through space. And I, like everyone else, hated the last episode. It really was the worst episode of Star Trek ever made. But people regularly teleported onto the Enterprise, the NX-01. And they had no shields, they were brand new to space, so yeah, I cut them some slack on that one. We jump forward to the original series, and again, it's tech slower. They jump on board. We'll say that the shields are still there while they're now ubiquitous. They aren't. They're not all that great. We know that. Of course, the reason that the Star Trek used force fields was because they didn't want to keep having to put battle damage on their very expensive Enterprise model. And the reason we had teleporters is because Gene Roddenberry didn't like the idea of having to keep writing scenes where people embarked and disembarked from shuttlecraft. He felt it was just bogging storylines down, and it would be repetitious and boring. And I can kind of understand that. Also, then you have the shuttle on the place where you're at, and the shuttle has resources. So that now has to, and it can be found and things like that. So that complicates things and also means that you can't do certain things because, well, the shuttle would be there and you'd be able to use it as shelter or it's got equipment on board, things like that. Not that anyone who's ever written for Star Trek actually thinks that deeply about anything. Yeah. Um, but I'm currently watching the third season of Discovery. And as I've said in the past, I love the characters. I really do. This is some lazy ass writing. Okay, spoiler warning. You probably figured out what I'm going to say about it anyway. But people still teleport onto Federation ships. Why? Now, you could say, well, they're in the 31st century. They haven't upgraded everything. No, no, no. They've been there long enough, and they have 31st century engineer on board. They would have made the improvements. They should have made these improvements back in the next generation era because people were teleporting on to the Enterprise, and the Enterprise crew was teleporting onto like the Borg ship at will. Now, yeah, godlike beings like Q, you can't stop them. I get that. But your average everyday mortals, you should be able to stop them from teleporting onto your ship unless you want them to teleport onto your ship. There should be some interference field. Again, they had force fields so they wouldn't have to put battle damage on their expensive models. It would not be difficult to just say that we've improved these force fields. So there's an interference frequency. Okay, stop for a second and realize that Dungeons and Dragons has anti-teleportation magic. Yes, yes, it does, and has for decades. This is not an original idea. And the concept of having an interference field, of tuning something so it scrambles something else, is also not difficult to imagine because you can do it here and now. You want to screw someone else's radio signal up? You can if you know the frequency they're on and you have the equipment to out broadcast them. Okay? It's not complex. And I'm not asking for like super duper, you know, Marvel DC science. Remember, Cyric is really soft and squishy. It's science fantasy. It's not science fiction. It's harder than Star Wars, but so what? It's still not science fiction. It's science fantasy. Okay? It's soft enough and squishy enough to allow you to have an interference field on your ship so long as you have power. Again, that's a nice out. The ship has no power, then people can still teleport onto. Okay, I would buy that. But under normal circumstances, because there is power, the interference field works. I mean, we just accept the fact that because the ships have power, the gravity works. No one ever questions the fact that everybody in Star Trek walks around as though they're in a convention center. Even in Star Trek Enterprise, the NX-01, nobody questions the fact that gravity works all the damn time because it's much easier than having to have everybody on wires floating through their ships, which is what realistically it should be until you get really advanced science, because manipulating gravity is pretty advanced. So yeah, I'm really really tired of this. When I got to the point in the series of the episodes in series 3 where they did more of the evil empire thing, I'm like, and my wife was like, "What? This crap." At least they did a little bit. They tweaked a little. It was more palatable when they had the 2 episodes in season 3. It was because they subverted it a little, which was pleasant. Okay, but it still was that's the same old damn trope. I'm really tired of it. But still, people teleporting onto the Discovery without any interference from anybody into the spore chamber? You're telling me the spore chamber doesn't have some kind of lockdown field so that nothing can interfere with the spore drive when it's in operation? What complete and utter bullshit. I was just like, nah, this is just lazy writing. I'm going to finish the series, and I will probably watch the next series, which is only supposed to be 11 episodes, so that makes me think they're going to wrap everything up, which is fine with me. And then I'm going to go, and I'm probably going to rewatch Voyager, because I've never watched the entirety of Voyager. I own it on disc. I've got the entire series. In fact, I just yesterday was looking for something, and I stacked all my episodes of all my seasons of Voyager in a nice stack, and I'm probably going to watch those. Or maybe DS9. I've got DS9 too. Maybe DS9. I haven't watched the entirety of DS9 either. I don't know, one of the two. I'm going to watch a whole bunch of Star Trek over the near future. I also have to finish watching the original series with my wife because she hasn't seen all of them. I've seen them all multiple times, of course, but my wife has not seen all of them. And they don't hold up well in many ways, but in others, the nostalgia is really quite wonderful. Um, I love seeing those folks when they were young. It was great. They were so memorable. Interestingly, they had the Guardian of Forever in one of the episodes, and they had the Guardian of Forever in the first original series, and then they had him in the animated series. And then, to the best of my knowledge, that's the last time we saw it until now in Discovery. And why that isn't more of a thing is beyond me. The Guardian does talk about the whole Time War thing, which is great, because that's good because they would be very much intimately involved in that. Um, but I'm really, really tired of time things too. Just like I said, Loki from Marvel did a really great time, multiple variable universe things, and I really found it quite fun. And I enjoyed that short series, but I'm tired of how Star Trek handles time travel and alternate universes because they're so damn boring. So yeah, more lazy writing in Star Trek with the whole teleporting onto a Federation ship at will. It's like, let's just teleport on board. Nothing there to stop us. And yet, the gravity works all the time. Nobody questions it. So why the hell don't we have an interference field? It's not a stretch. If you don't question the gravity thing, you shouldn't be questioning the can't teleport on board unless somebody wants you to teleport on board thing. I know I wouldn't. In fact, I would think, hey, that's smart. I would have done that. I mean, Dungeons & Dragons did it, so why can't the writers of Star Trek